Divide the following and state the quotient Q and the remainder R. Check by multiplying. 7,057 divided by 23. Before looking at how to use our calculator, let's review how to do this one by hand. We begin by asking ourselves, how many times does 23 go into the digit 7? Well, it doesn't, so we move on and we look at the two digits. How many times does 23 go into 70? It goes in there 3 times, so now we multiply. 3 times 23 is 69. So we write that below the 70 and subtract. We then bring down the next digit, which is 5. Now we ask, how many times does 23 divide into 15 evenly? And it does not, so that means it goes in there 0 times evenly. We need to write that 0 up above as a placeholder. We then multiply the 0 by the 23, which gives 0, and then we subtract. We now bring down the next digit of 7, and we ask, how many times does 23 go into 157 evenly? It goes in 6 times evenly. So we multiply 6 times 23, and that gives us 138. We subtract. Notice that the quotient is up top, 306, and the remainder is on the bottom, 19. And that's our final answer. But I mentioned that we were going to do this with a calculator. So on our calculator, we can type 7,057 divided by 23, and there's the result. Notice that the number to the left of the decimal, 306, is our quotient. So the calculator is very efficient at giving us our quotient. But notice the decimal doesn't clearly indicate that the remainder would be 19. So how do we find the remainder? Well, an efficient way to do so is to start the division process over. But this time, rather than doing it by hand, you can use your calculator to help. We know all the digits that go on top belong to the quotient. So next, we can take the entire quotient, rather than one digit at a time, and multiply it all at once by 23. And the result, 7,038, is written down below. And you subtract. Notice that the quotient is the same as when we did it by hand, as is the remainder. But we're still not done. The question says to check by multiplying. But what do we multiply? Well, you take the result of 306 and you multiply it by the original divisor of 23. Doing so gives us 7,038. But you might notice we didn't start with 7,038. We started with 7,057. We need to still take the 7,038 and add in the remainder. When we add in the 19, we do get what we started with, 7,057. Notice that this work at the bottom right it's not the answer, it is simply to check. And it all checks out. Our quotient is 306 and our remainder is 19.